Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to share with you my breastfeeding journey, but more importantly I'm going to share some tips with you to hopefully make your breastfeeding journey easier and more enjoyable, especially early on. If you're watching this video and you just had a baby and you're just trying to figure out what is going on, how am I going to make it through this breastfeeding thing and these breastfeeding challenges, I just want to let you know that it does get better. Before I had my baby, people kept telling me that it takes about 4 weeks, about a month, until it gets easy, finally. And at least for me, that was exactly my experience. Yeah. Exactly 4 weeks, pretty much. It finally got easy. My story, I think, is a little unique. We didn't have that many challenges early on, but we had some really serious challenges about day 10 that freaked me out and made me feel like I didn't totally feel like I was going to give up, but I totally felt like I might give up, and I totally understand how a lot of women give up. Give up with breastfeeding, by the way. Give up on breastfeeding and just go to formula, because I know how difficult it is through experience, and I definitely felt like I'm going to give up if this doesn't get better like in 5 minutes. So first of all, I do want to say that if you are looking for specific advice for yourself in your own situation, I highly, highly, highly recommend seeking the advice and the consultation of a lactation consultant. I worked with a couple different lactation consultants, and if it weren't for them, my baby probably would have been on formula early on, because I just didn't know what I was doing. We don't live in a culture where we're surrounded by women who can help us in our homes, our mothers, and so many American, young American women, like in my generation, our generation, who are having children, they were not breastfed, or their mothers were not breastfed. Breastfeeding is having a resurgence, even though it's the most natural, normal thing in the world, as normal and natural as giving birth and getting pregnant. There are so many people who still are not breastfeeding and who were not breastfed, so they don't have that support system in place in their families and in their homes. So definitely seek the support of a lactation consultant. I cannot recommend that enough. If you don't like the first one you've met and that you've worked with, move on and find another one. Find one until you've got the right one for you to help you improve your situation and actually make breastfeeding easier. These tips in today's video hopefully will help you as well, but for more specific advice, you need to speak to a professional for sure. So now let's start with my story, my breastfeeding story. So first of all, I had my baby earlier this year, January 2019. It's crazy to say that she was born in 2019. But yeah, she was born here in our house in this bed, which I'm sitting right next to now. If you want to hear more about my birth story, make sure you watch my birth story video. It is pretty fun, and you get to see a little bit of the baby. She might make a cameo in this video too, in case I have to feed her, but we'll see. Anyways, my baby daughter was born here at home. It was a great birth, very long. Watch the video. And when she came out, the first thing that my midwife did was plop her onto my naked chest, naked, skin to skin, heart to heart. It was, I have no words for how amazing that feeling was. So almost immediately we had a little bit of challenge latching the baby to my breast. I can't remember that well because I was such in a daze, an in love daze with my little baby. But I remember the midwife having to help me, or to help her open wide enough to latch. I will be totally honest with you. I think a lot of the problems that I had were from the fact that my baby had a very small mouth. She has humongous eyes and a small mouth, and I have large nipples. So if anyone else is dealing with that, I feel you. When I was looking on the internet to try to figure out what to do about this situation, I didn't read a lot about it. It was only when I spoke to lactation consultants that I got really good individualized attention and help with this specific issue. First day seemed to be beautiful. Like I said, I can't remember all the details. It all went well. But day 2, my midwife came back to the house to check on us, see how we're doing. And it was in the morning, and she tried to latch the baby to my breast or help the baby latch, and we just couldn't do it. The baby wouldn't open her mouth wide enough to latch. She just would kind of do this. And if we did get her to get on the breast at some points, she would just fall right to sleep and she would not suck at all. So that was disheartening. So my midwife recommended we call a lactation consultant to come to the house as soon as possible, which we did, and she did come. And basically she just helped us, she helped me hold the baby better, hold my breast better, work on different techniques to get the baby's mouth to open, to help the baby realize that I need to open my mouth, to trigger that innate response to open and suck that all babies have. At this point, you know, day 2, my full regular milk supply wasn't in yet. I was just producing the colostrum. That's what was coming out. And if you don't know what colostrum is, it's that very thick, very golden, beautiful yellow milk that comes up before your regular, like, you know, more liquidy, lighter colored milk comes. Colostrum is incredibly nutritious for babies. It's got so much just good stuff in there for them, and it's very important that they get that the first days of life. It is a type of milk, so it's not that your milk hasn't come in yet. It's just the milk is colostrum at first, and that you don't produce very much of it at all. It is golden. It is so precious. On that second day, when I was having issues with the baby latching, and before our lactation consultant showed up, I did not want to let that colostrum go to waste. So what I was doing, thanks to the internet, I think, Googling, or maybe my midwife told me, I don't remember, I would hand express. You can look up online how to hand express. It's not difficult. I would just collect my colostrum with a little dropper, a clean, sterilized dropper, and I would take that colostrum that I had hand expressed and drop it into my baby's mouth so that she could eat that, because she couldn't get it out and she wasn't sucking effectively or latching effectively on her own. So if that's what it comes to, that's what it comes to. Do it. Even if you're in the hospital, you can do this. Sometimes in the hospital, they'll give you a hospital-grade pump to start pumping that colostrum right away if your baby is having any issues latching, as far as I understand. But you can always hand express also. You always have your hands and you always have your breasts, no matter if you're in the hospital or at home. So make sure that you don't let that colostrum go to waste. Even if you're giving your baby formula, try to give them that colostrum as well. Okay, so fast forward, the lactation consultant helped us. She came back the next day to help us some more. She gave me nipple shields, so that basically makes your nipple more pointy and like a little bit more regular for the baby to latch on to. Remember, I have large nipples, but the nipple shields were sort of helpful. She gave me a lot of other tools, and we kept practicing. I mean, all you do with a newborn baby is feed them, basically. You're supposed to feed a newborn baby about every 2 to 3 hours. I was trying to feed her on demand, but she wasn't really demanding much. So I would just put her on there and she'd be latched on me for a long time. Babies in the first few days, you don't want them to lose more than 10% of their birth weight, but they all lose weight, and by week 2, by the 14th day of life, they should have gained all that weight back, and they should be showing signs of steady weight gain, which equates to they're basically taking in enough food from the breast. So by the 10th day, we had realized that my baby she still didn't seem like she was getting back to her birth weight. She was actually still losing weight by day 10. And she was looking thinner also, which is just the most terrifying thing. We could tell something was wrong. My midwife was there. That's how we knew her weight wasn't up to par. She recommended we see a lactation consultant again. We ended up going to a different lactation consultant that my next door neighbor had recommended, which was just amazing. It was a great recommendation. The first one was great too, but the second one, we went to see her rather than her coming to us. It was part of UCLA program, so we didn't have to pay as much money, and it was just much better for us. So in the days from day 2 to day 10, when I thought we were breastfeeding just well, it turns out that even though she looked like she was latched and she looked like she was sucking, she wasn't able to draw enough milk from my breast. She was getting very little milk. We were counting her diapers, making sure she had enough wet diapers and enough poopy diapers each day, and it seemed like she was doing fine most days, though I think that 9th day or the 10th day, she didn't have enough. and we realized something was wrong, aside from the fact that her weight was, not up yet, and aside from the fact that she was actually even looking thinner. We knew something was very wrong, but we didn't know exactly why. She seems like she's on my breast for 45 minutes or an hour sometimes. Is she not getting milk? Luckily, by this point, I had also gotten a pump from my insurance company. I ordered it. So when we realized it wasn't working out, I was able to start pumping immediately because I had a pump. It was a Saturday, and I was able to start pumping immediately. And Max went and got some bottles, and we started giving her the bottle with the breast milk that I pumped. The great thing is that even though my baby wasn't getting enough milk in those first 10 days of life from me, my milk supply was up. It never suffered, because usually if you don't use it, you lose it. And I guess that stimulation from her sucking a little bit, it must have kept my supply up, because my supply was and has always been very healthy. So we were blessed. I was able to start pumping, giving her the bottle. We went to the pediatrician. The pediatrician confirmed what the lactation consultants recommended, to just feed her from a bottle every 2 hours during the day, every 3 hours at night. We were giving her 3 ounces each time. Even we had to wake her up in the middle of the night to feed her, which she hated, we hated. Every time she fed, I would pump. So Max would give her the bottle and I would pump. Every 2 hours during the day, every 3 hours at night for 2 full weeks. She got back to her birth weight probably within a week or maybe 5 days. It didn't take that long, but it took a lot of work, a lot of pumping. And pumping is not the best thing in the world. If you guys have pumped yet, it's no walk in the park. I think breastfeeding a baby is a lot easier than pumping. My first pump that I had was horrible, and it was so painful. Breastfeeding my baby was never painful, maybe because I had so much, experience with the pump before her latch got really good. I don't know. I never had any pain with my daughter breastfeeding. But the pump is like a torture device. When we were bottle feeding her and pumping, the main concern was that she was going to start to prefer the bottle and never ever going to go back to the breast or be able to latch, effectively. She was going to get nipple confusion, as they called it. So our lactation consultant, in addition to having us give her the bottle, which was just easy and effective, she also had us do the SNS, which is like this little tube that's connected to a little tiny bottle of milk that the baby can suck out. Or for my baby, who was not able to suck effectively, we would press it down like a little syringe, press the milk through a little tube. We connected it to my breast, so she looked like she was sucking from my breast, but she wasn't actually able to draw any liquid from the breast, any milk. She was actually just drinking the milk that we pressed through the syringe. It was so much work, but it was totally worth it for sure. Would she actually have gotten nipple confusion had we not done that? And had we not tried to latch her with the nipple shields and all this stuff? I don't know. Maybe not. I believe that the baby always prefers the mom, because there's all these other reasons to prefer your mother's breast over a bottle, which is a cold plastic or glass device. So we actually didn't have any problems getting her back on the boob once she was, ready. We also saw an occupational therapist to see if maybe there was some issue that was causing her to have a hard time to breastfeed. Didn't seem like there was any issues, but they did give us more exercises to loosen her upper lip and her jaw and all these things. Definitely recommend seeing an occupational therapist too if you're having issues. Around the 4th week, I would breastfeed on each breast for 10 minutes in the morning, first thing in the morning, and then I'd give her 2 ounces of milk right after that from a bottle. And I think by the 2nd day of doing that, she was latching well and sucking well. And I could tell it was a big difference from how she seemed to suck, which was a very shallow, soothing suck when she was littler and not getting any milk, versus the new suck, which was a deeper, more substantial suck that you could feel milk being drawn out. It was amazing. So that was 4 weeks. Now she's over 6 months. She just turned 6 months. And our breastfeeding relationship is wonderful. She's still exclusively breastfed. She still has only ever had breast milk. Luckily, thanks to the help that we had from the lactation consultants and my inability to let it go, even though I wanted to give up many times, she's never been on formula, which is important to us because, you know, we're vegan and no formula is actually 100% vegan. And I just know that because we stuck in there with the breastfeeding, that it paid off. And it was hard, trust me, I know. It was so difficult, and like I said, I wanted to give up so many times. But now it's totally worth it because we've been breastfeeding exclusively all this time, and it's great. And she's healthy, and she's a big girl, and she's just amazing. So now I want to give you tips for breastfeeding to hopefully make it easier for you. Maybe you're having some issue with supply, or maybe you're just worried about, am I producing enough? The way to know if your baby is getting enough is if they're gaining weight, and also you can do the diaper count thing, if they're having enough poopy and wet diapers every day. Make sure you speak to your pediatrician and a lactation consultant to help you figure out what is best for your baby, because all babies are different, just like all adults are different. So make sure you get that individualized attention as well. So first of all, I wanted to talk to you guys about ways you can improve and increase your milk supply. Because I was pumping so much those first few weeks, whew, my goodness, I filled up my entire large freezer with breast milk. Entire thing. Basically, I would pump and give my baby 3 to 4 ounces every time in a bottle. And that extra stuff that I pumped, extra milk that I pumped, I would freeze. So I froze them in little silicone ice trays, and then I would just pop them into some Ziploc bags and put a date on them. I've given away most of the milk now because it only lasts about 6 months in the freezer. I do have a little bit left from what I pumped in April. Right now, as of the filming of this video, it's July. But I had to give it away because I stay at home with my baby. I'm always around her. We're doing attachment parenting. So I actually haven't needed to use that milk. When I do leave the house to do something without her, I just pump fresh milk and leave that for her. So we haven't used any of the frozen milk. So it's great because it's something that I can donate. But how did I fill up a whole freezer? Well, first of all, if you want to improve your milk supply or make sure that you have a healthy, abundant supply of milk, you have to breastfeed the baby or pump. Milk supply is all about supply and demand. Your body will produce as much as it thinks you need. So if you are, giving your baby formula 50% of the time and breastfeeding 50% of the time, then your body will make only enough milk for the 50% of the time that it needs the milk. As much as your baby is on the breast and withdrawing milk, that is how much milk your body will produce. Or if you're doing pumping or exclusive pumping or a combination of whatever, that's how much the body will produce. Of course, there are other factors that come into play that can help increase your milk supply. For one, make sure you are always hydrated. Where's my water bottle? I drink around 3 of these 1-liter water bottles a day. This water bottle even has a straw on the inside because when I'm laying down in bed, I need to drink water sometimes, or when I'm laying down to breastfeed the baby, I need to drink water. Milk is liquid, right? It's mostly water, so your body needs a lot of water. It requires a lot of energy and a lot of water. So water, 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 just plain old water. Make sure you're hydrated. One tip that I heard and that I think is great is making sure to keep a bottle of water near wherever you breastfeed regularly. So if you have a nursing chair or on your bed or sofa, make sure you keep a bottle of water near there, even if you don't plan on using it, just in case you forget your main water source and you can't get up because baby is feeding or sleeping. So, number 1 tip is to stay hydrated. You can also stay hydrated by eating very, juicy fruits and things like that. It's summer right now, so that's pretty easy to do. But ultimately, make sure water is the number one go-to just because it's easier for you to track how much you are drinking. Another thing you can do is take a lactation support tea. The one I was using mostly was the mother's milk tea by Traditional Medicinals. It's just a blend of herbs. The main one I think is fenugreek, which I like a lot. I love the taste of it. It's sort of licoricey, the tea. It's great. So my midwife recommended that I start taking that mother's milk tea same day the baby was born, to just tell your body, just to give your body a little assistance in the production of healthy milk. And the tea is tasty, like I said, so why not? You can drink it hot or cold. Just follow the instructions on the back of the box or the bag, depending on what type of tea you buy, and that's really great and really helpful. I also took some supplements that were also fenugreek based, and I don't think it was necessary, but I did get a little anxious about how much milk am I supposed to be producing. It's just so easy when you're a new mom to be anxious about everything. So it's okay to buy some supplements, breastfeeding supplements. I'll link the one I use down below, also the tea down below. It's okay to use those things if it's going to make you feel better and make you feel like you're producing more milk. But you might not need it, depends. I'm not sure. Everyone is different. Another basic thing that I recommend to everyone, whether they're breastfeeding or not, whether they're a mom or not, man, woman, child, doesn't matter, is to eat a whole foods, plant-based diet. I say vegan, but at least plant-based diet. Meaning avoiding processed things, avoiding sugars and additives and all of those things the majority of the time. Eating mostly whole foods, grains, legumes, vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds, all of these things, healthy fats. They all help you to be healthier overall, and a healthy, optimized body will be great at producing healthy, optimal milk for your baby. Okay? Another thing that is super helpful with increasing your milk supply and making sure you have healthy milk supply is eating oats. And you can eat oats in any different way. You can have oatmeal for breakfast. It can be steel cut oats or old-fashioned rolled oats. You can have oat muffins, which happen to have been my absolute favorite snack, especially when my baby was first born and I was breastfeeding and later pumping all night long. Those muffins are like the best. I'm going to link all this stuff below so you can have the recipe. Also, oatmeal cookies, oat tahini cookies. You can have oats in any way, like whatever, be creative. But oats are super great. They are a galactagogue like fenugreek is and fennel is. They're just these herbs and these foods that help you to make more milk. And they taste delicious and you can do so much with them. So make sure you get plenty of oats. And another thing I wanted to mention is stress. When I was first starting to pump and I was worried about, am I pumping enough milk, I watched so I can't tell you how many YouTube videos about this topic I watched. And one thing that every woman said was avoid stress. Now, when you're a new mom, it's like saying you should avoid breathing and still go on and live your life. It's impossible. But there are ways that you can minimize stress as much as possible. For me, early on, what I would do is while I was pumping, I would first envision my baby's face. She was always sitting not too far away from me. But I would envision her face and envision her latching and eating off, from my breast, because she was just eating through a bottle that Max was giving her. But I would envision her actually, nursing. And that was helpful. But another thing I would do is I would read. I read so many novels early on when I first had the baby and when I was first having these challenges and needed to pump. I would just pump and I would read, and it was great. I still read, especially at nighttime and, during nap time when I'm nursing her. But I also watch TV, and I think that's really great because it helps to relieve my stress, help me forget about my problems, and just worry about nothing and just be entertained. So avoid stress as much as possible, even if that means, you need to watch TV or read a good book. Also, make sure that when you are pumping or nursing your baby, you also are massaging your breasts. This is especially necessary if you're pumping, because the pump is not as effective at getting milk out as your baby hopefully is or will be, in my baby's case early on. But massaging your breast really helps the milk to move and just get out. You might feel, well, I think everybody feels totally engorged, like ridiculously engorged, when the baby is a couple days old and your milk really comes in. My breasts look like full on, like squares, like bricks. It was crazy. I was engorged up to my collarbones. It was insane, and it was painful and so uncomfortable. So it's important to massage all that area to get all that milk flowing. Even once your milk has come in and you're good, keep massaging, keep the milk flowing. It also helps to improve your milk supply, I've read, and it can also help to get more fat out into your baby, which is great. Healthy fats make a healthy baby. So massage, massage, massage all around your breast. When it comes to pain, I didn't have any pain with my baby latching onto my nipple, thankfully. I didn't have cracked nipples, bleeding nipples, none of that. Thank the heavens, because I had enough other problems to worry about. But I did have pain when it came to engorgement, and even at 6 months, I still have pain from engorgement sometimes. Just 2 days ago, I had like this really crazy, I don't know, I don't think it was a plugged duct, but I had like a lodged something here in my breast. So when I'm dealing with things like that, and they're painful and very uncomfortable, I make sure to really massage every time my baby eats. Just like I said before, to make sure that the milk is passing through effectively and not getting clogged or, no blockages are happening. Also, another thing that I do is I'll take a hot shower and just massage my breasts in the shower. That helps to move things along as well. And I'll also even hand express in the shower if I'm really engorged. Say I pumped and I leave the house and the baby's asleep and we don't want to wake her back up. Sometimes I will get engorged and I'll just take a shower and hand express, especially when I don't want to pump again, because I try not to pump too often, especially since my baby is almost 100% exclusively breastfed and not bottle fed. Because if I pump more, sometimes they say if you want to increase your milk supply, pump 10 minutes after your baby's finished eating. But that just means, for some people that's great. If you need to get your supply up, that's great. But for me, I already have a freezer stash full of milk, and that can basically cause me to make too much milk and cause me to get plugged ducts and just feel so terrible. So I try to only produce what the baby needs. Another thing that's been really helpful for me when I have any engorgement, I have these flaxseed like hacky sacks that I put on my breast. You can warm them up in the microwave for a couple seconds, 30 seconds or so, and they're really warm, and you just put them on the breast before you feed the baby or you pump, and that helps to loosen up any of the milk and clogs that are in your breast as well. I just got to the point where I can sleep on my stomach again, but I can only sleep on my stomach under certain very specific circumstances and only a specific way. Like if the baby is just eaten off of my right breast, then I can sleep on that side a little better, but the left has got to be a little elevated. So this just might be how it is when you're breastfeeding mom until we wean the baby. If you're dealing with engorgement in the middle of the night and you're only feeding baby from one breast but both of them are engorged, I recommend feeding your baby from whatever breast that you're on that side. Switching is really great if you can, but in the middle of the night, I know that's difficult. I mean, for me, I'm too sleepy for all that. So feed your baby, and on the other breast, you can attach the Haka, which is a manual pump made from silicone. Just attach that, or you can use a manual squeeze pump as well to take out the milk. The main pain that I've dealt with around breastfeeding has been with my pump, basically. The pump, I had an old pump, the Ameda. It was a torture device. It was horrible. Then I upgraded and I got the Spectra S2, which is so much better. But then also in between, I was trying to figure out the size of the pump accessories, the part that sticks onto your breast. Is it 25 millimeters, 24, 28? What's best for the size of my nipple? And it turns out that even though I have really large nipples, I think it was the 24 and the 25 that works the best for me. But caveat, I have to make sure to put nipple balm on my nipples before attaching the pump accessories, because otherwise it'll just rub against that plastic and it's very painful. So put nipple balm on to make sure to give your body some friction. You could also use cocoa butter. Just make sure it is food grade and something that you don't mind going into your baby's mouth. It has to be the good stuff. Also, if you are dealing with cracked nipples or anything like that, then after the baby eats, then you'd want to put that nipple balm on just to make sure that you are moisturizing that area that, of course, was, cracked. Just make sure that you're moisturizing that area after the baby is no longer latched. So those are my tips for making breastfeeding and pumping a little easier. Those are just things that I learned along the way that made my whole experience so much more pleasant. When I was having those challenges with breastfeeding, that was the most difficult emotionally thing I've ever done in my life. It was so difficult to have to pump and give my milk to a machine that felt like a torture device and then give my baby a bottle when I only wanted to just feed her straight from my breast. It was so difficult emotionally. I felt like a failure. I felt like I was doing everything wrong. It was hard, so difficult, and I just didn't think I could continue. But I'm really glad that I did, because now breastfeeding is wonderful. It's such a nice time to bond with my baby and to relax and to spend time together. And we're only going to breastfeed for a couple of years at the most, but hopefully we'll have a very, very long lifetime ahead of us, and she'll only be a baby for like 6 more months. So I really want to milk this time because it's beautiful. And I hope you also have a great experience with breastfeeding. Like, I know it can be challenging. It can feel like it cannot get any better, but with focus and determination, more importantly, it does get better. And I think hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do as well, and as much as my baby does. But yeah, those are my tips. Hope you enjoyed them. If you have any other tips, you guys, for other women who are dealing with this right now, challenges breastfeeding, please share them in the comments below. I do recommend really quickly checking out Kelly Mom. It's a website that I've been using for information, tips, advice about breastfeeding. So wonderful. It's just clear, it's fact-based, so helpful. I forgot to mention, I also had some milk blister on my nipple a couple months ago, and it was very painful, and I had a little bit of plug duct that went along with that, and Kelly Mom was helping me deal with it. I didn't take the advice fully because it grossed me out. But anyway, I don't have that plug duct anymore. Check out Kelly Mom. Make sure you get your own lactation consultant. If money is an issue, there are so many other creative ways that you can still work with a lactation consultant. For example, I know here in Los Angeles at Kindred Space, they have a lactation lounge where you can speak with lactation consultants in training for a much, much, much reduced fee, and they even have sliding scale. I'm going to link all these resources down below, so don't feel like you are going to miss out on anything. I'll link it below. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful time breastfeeding your baby. Thanks for watching. Bye!